Hello and welcome to the SourceForge Podcast, and thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Sydney Shepard, here at SourceForge and Slash.media. SourceForge is the world's most visited software comparison site where B2B software buyers compare and find business software solutions. And as always, here on the podcast, we discuss software and technology with leaders and changemakers in tech. And joining us today, we have Philip Lecter, the Vice President of Growth for CXT Software. CXT Software is the leading provider of last mile, route, and on-demand shipment management technology for logistic needs throughout North America. Thanks for coming on the podcast with us today, Philip.
Absolutely, Sydney. Thanks for having me. Really excited for our conversation today.
Same, definitely. So just getting right into it, could you give us a quick overview of CXT Software and what you guys offer there?
Yeah, absolutely. We are essentially the back office operations for couriers, carriers, logistics companies, medical organizations, all with one frame in mind, and that is to deliver to some sort of an end user, whether that's direct to consumer or even B2B. And so we run all of the dispatching, all of the operations around that, invoicing, you name it, that would go into delivering an order. We do exactly that.
Awesome. That's great. Doing it all, get everything done in one spot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different pieces to that, but really bringing them together makes a huge difference.
Yeah, totally. Can you tell us, how did your experience in developing logistics solutions influence the design of CXT Software's platform?
Yeah, when you look at our history, we actually started as a courier company, and that was with a need in mind, which was how do we actually solve some of these challenges that we were having from a visibility issue, from the ability to understand where our drivers were, communicating with the drivers, as well as being able to give that information back to our clients. And that was what spawned the initial framework of CXT software as a solution. When you look at it from that perspective, we built this from the idea of being a courier and carrier. And so we have hundreds of years of courier experience within inside our four walls to add to our software developers as well.
That's great. The best way to create something is by seeing and experience things and actually knowing where things need to be improved and provided to people. So that's awesome. And can you tell us what gaps in the shipment management market did CXT Software aim to address with its technology?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I think are really valuable there. And the first is that even though it seems like, a shipment from point A to point B is an easy process, there are a lot of different workflows or ways that can be done. And so one of the things that we really made sure that we developed in our solution is the idea that you can use our solution, but it doesn't mean that you have to design your business around our solution. So while we have an out-of-the-box solution, that box will actually bend to your business versus it being the other way around. And that's what really has created some uniqueness for us in the market space today. The ability to not only do on-demand work, so picking up a piece or a shipment from one location, delivering it to the next, but then also the ability to have different workflows around routed work, which is where you think about distribution or going to the same place, every day at the same time. And those different workflows require different needs, have different terminologies, different communications, all which are designed inside of our solution that your business can actually do all those different types of work your way.
Amazing. That's great. Definitely all sorts of businesses and people do things different ways. And I feel like a lot of, doesn't matter what industry or what you're doing, but a lot of systems are kind of stuck in certain ways. So being able to adapt to what individual companies and people need is definitely a strong benefit, for someone to use your solution over another.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dan, just to give some examples of that, right? A logistics company where their core business is deliveries will have different challenges than, say, a hospital network that wants to deliver and track where their beds are, or or a pharmacy with prescriptions, or a medical lab. I mean, any of those types of use cases have different requirements and needs, and that's really where we stand above the rest.
How has CXT software adapted to include the latest trends, of course, such as AI and advanced analytics in shipment management?
As we look at where the market is going with new technology, I mean, we are at the forefront of adopting that. We just launched last year our autonomous dispatching function, which is designed to be able to identify what the most effective driver would be to assign a particular order to, and then readjust their itinerary in order to meet the demands for our clients. And what that really means is the ability for an order to come in and be immediately assigned and autonomously assigned to a specific driver. And when we start to look at how we start to apply all these pieces, what we're really looking at is, where is the business case for each of these new types of tools and technologies? And it's interesting that we're seeing some of it's applying really well. Others, it's still a work in progress. And that's something that we're constantly on the forefront of. But I will say this, one of the things that makes us unique is that being a 25-year-old solution, we have been able to take the best of the past and stability and understanding and experience, but also meld it into the world of today. And I think that's what's most important to recognize, that we don't rest on our laurels. We are actually out building and being at the forefront of this evolution.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's important to always be kind of morphing and changing, of course, as the industry and just technology in general grows. So that's awesome. In going even more, into AI, how do you see the integration of AI impacting the future of shipment management systems as a whole?
I think there's a lot of play there. I will say though that it may, some of it's a little early yet, and maybe we can get into that dialogue a little bit later. But when you think about how this is really coming to bear and how it's coming in, a lot of it today is still very driven by the human algorithm. And that human algorithm, so it's really what can be designed. And so it's truly about what we can put in is what we're going to be able to get out. And we're not yet at that place where, in this space especially, you're seeing that true artificial intelligence where it's truly learning and growing on its own, using history an example. But there are a couple of plays that are probably not far around the corner. For instance, demand pricing is one of those areas that could be really, really powerful down the road in short order when you have a certain level of service that you're offering. And so for our clients, those are typically what we would call order types. And an order type might be a 1-hour delivery or a 4-hour delivery, but they may only have certain available times. And so we're actually working through and looking into, how do we start to adjust pricing related to demand and what's needed. So for instance, if you don't have enough availability for, say, a 1-hour delivery, but you have a lot of availability for a 4-hour delivery, how do you appropriately adjust the price? And so that's one of those areas of AI that's around the corner. Also, staffing is a huge piece. Like, if you think about San Diego as an instance, Sydney, you have drivers all throughout San Diego. Where do you want them placed throughout the day? And can you know that before you get that order? And I think that's where AI is also going to bring us in direction, is the fact that ultimately we should be able to preset and understand, based off of history, where we can make better decisions in our business to drive that new result. And those are the things that we're really looking at as we get into this new space. I will say some of that isn't here yet, but we are close to cracking that code.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like, we probably don't even know, well, we don't know what AI will be able to do in the future. So what you said just totally makes sense, but utilizing it how you can with the history that you do have to give you, helpful solutions is awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah, how can we make better decisions? At the end of the day in this business, miles and time are the two biggest, revenue sources or cost factors you decide. And they're both, right? And so how do we minimize our costs and maximize our revenue opportunity in a business that's relatively low margin? When you think of that is a big key to this, and how can we as a solution solve that and offer that for our clients?
Totally. Those are some of the most important things. So totally makes sense. And can you explain the significance of CXT Software's integration capabilities with other logistics and enterprise systems? Because we know integrating with other systems is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. To say it this way, when we started this organization, and 25 years ago in 1999, it was an all, you had to build everything all in one. And in today's environment, that's not the case. And so our goal is to be best in market. It's to be best in class, best in market at what we do best, and to stay in that lane. For instance, and I use this as a simple example, but our goal is not to become a competitor to QuickBooks. We can integrate with QuickBooks in order to pass the data back and forth. Those types of things, even on the analytics side, while we have some analytics capabilities, a true analytics engine, whether it be Tableau, Power BI, Zoho Analytics, or whatever other package that, Crystal reports. Our goal is to make it easy as possible to get the data out of our system into a system like that. And so we've really focused on the business side of that. In addition, also how you get information from your clients. And so our customers' clients are sending them order information. That becomes those integration points for us as well. And on top of that, any additional third-party level type solutions, whether that's warehouse management or even communication systems back and forth with clients and or drivers, are all tools that can be integrated on the platform. And we really know that connectivity is the key to our future success.
So now can you tell us what support and resources CXT Software offers to its clients to ensure effective utilization of the platform?
Yeah, while solutions and SaaS solutions tend to be high tech, we really take a high touch approach. And whether that's access to our technical support, our client success team, our solution specialists or our product experts, our enterprise services team and professional services teams, depending on what you need, we're able to offer that. And I think that's what's really true and powerful to this, as I mentioned earlier, about the idea of customization. Like we don't expect for you to change your business to fit inside of our solutions box. We really focus on how can we mold and meld that. And sometimes that could be as simple as the way you want to set it up. Other times you might build on top of that. And so we offer those levels of services from a professional services basis where we can actually help and assist in customizing on your behalf. So either way, whether you choose to do it or you ask us to do it, that option is available, and it's what makes things truly unique for us. That includes integrations too. We recognize that not all logistics people are experts at this world of integrations, and so that's a level of support and offering that we're able to provide to our clients as well.
Amazing. I mean, any form of support, especially like if you have someone who can help you daily, just setting up what you need to, that's extremely helpful, because I'm sure obviously you guys are the experts at how to set up your software solution. So, helping people who don't have experience with it is very time efficient, very effective and helpful. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And even in the world today, our number one motto is we pick up the phone, right? And that is really important. You get to talk to real people at real times, and that is our core competency at its fullest.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's very helpful. There's been so many times where I try to call, whatever it may be, like, a credit card company or something like that, and you can't get through to a real person. That's like one of the most frustrating things. So being able to speak to someone just makes everybody happy. That's great. So now, kind of a fun question. Could you share a memorable story about a time that your company went above and beyond for a customer?
Yeah, there are a few, and as I think through uh, a couple that come to mind, the first one, this in this business and in the last mile space, that there can be acquisitions, right? And whether it's acquiring a new region or even a growth based mindset within our clients. Um, a lot of times the challenge in acquisition is how do we merge and and deal with the different software solutions that are there. And I think that's one of the areas where we've really I think those are we could build on that, which is when you think about um, how do you not disrupt the service? Because at the end of the day, our client's customer is what's most important. And when there's a change there can't be a disruption of service. And how do we minimize that? Whether that's in doing different types of redirection, whether that's in different training elements, we are able to step up. And so, one specific example, we had a client that acquired another organization, and within hours, we were able to ensure that they were able to make that transition up and running. Now there were some things that had to go along the way with that, but it was really us being willing to step up to the plate and support them that really made that difference. But on a day-to-day basis, we recognize the fact that our responsibility is is stability. It's the ability to make sure that our clients' businesses are running, because if we're not running, our clients aren't running. And that is a really important distinction that we really take very, very seriously and deal with that on a day, ensure that on a day-to-day basis.
That's awesome. That's great. We talked about efficiency earlier, and you saying like you helped a company within an hour to get things up and running and changed over. That's amazing. That's very, very um, unique, and you don't get that everywhere that you go. So that's awesome.
This is our core. Our core is our clients. I mean, we recognize that. Now, it doesn't mean we're always perfect, and things do happen in technology that we all, you know, we've all experienced and moaned and groaned about, or had challenges. But the question isn't what happens; is how do you respond? And that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves in, is ensuring that we do that level of response that's necessary.
Yeah, that's amazing. Another kind of fun question. What do you know about the logistics software space that maybe no one else knows about?
Yeah, that's a really great question around what is it that we understand about logistics. Obviously, the history and the ability for us to have had true challenges in the logistics space. So we've been there, done that, and experienced it. So that has really given us a value add. But I think when we think about the future, I think this is where it gets really unique and interesting, and especially in the last mile space. And we talked earlier about AI and some of these nice buzzwords, but when you think about AI and autonomous in the current last mile space, so much of that, and I'm going to say so much versus all, probably could make the case for all, but almost everything that is being called AI today is still human driven algorithms. And I think that's what we have to all kind of be considerate about, is the fact that it's not artificial intelligence just yet. When we think about, because artificial intelligence would be able to have predictive values that drive forward. And then when we think about this industry, we're not quite there yet. And I think that's what's important to recognize as we look at efficiencies, is a lot of it is still based off of what a human brain can design versus what a artificial intelligence can consume. And that difference is really, really critical in today's market. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I couldn't tell you when that's going to be. Maybe that's tomorrow. But reality is, it may be a little while before true artificial intelligence can absolutely impact our industry. Because if you think about, I'll just give you a use case example. Autonomous vehicles, as an example. Great, great idea. But how do you get the package out of the vehicle to the doorstep, whether that's a business or a consumer? Now it works great in a middle mile market where you're going from one warehouse to the next warehouse, but in that last mile space, Drones have challenges related to the FAA and the ability to fly. So there's so many different, different barriers to this idea of autonomous delivery. And then on top of that, when you get into AI, the computing power isn't quite there yet where it can actually consume the right level of information to make it more powerful in the marketplace today. And that's what we see in this space as we move forward. And excited for when the time comes where that's not the case.
Yeah, definitely. That all makes a lot of sense. And what emerging trend do you believe will have the biggest impact on your industry in just the next 5 years?
I think going back to the ability to start marrying more predictive analysis into the efficiencies of the business, right? Like how many drivers do I need today? Where should I have them located if I'm in an on-demand space, especially, right, where we don't necessarily have the same stop each and every day. That I think is going to be a big part. And I also think that demand pricing, these are all things that we see coming around the corner, at least in a beta environment where we can start to really kind of test and consume that and get that to some level of market space. And I think those are going to be some of the bigger elements that are going to start to really impact the bottom line. Because ultimately, that's really what we want to see is that impact of the bottom line, and I think that's where we're going to start to see this really come to fruition over the next 3 to 5 years.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm not in your industry, obviously, but that will be cool for you guys to see over time about where to place people throughout cities for shipments. That's like so interesting to me. I mean, definitely a very, very helpful thing for many companies. Like you said, for efficiency and saving costs. That's awesome. So now for our final question, where can people learn more about CXT software and your platform, and how could they get in touch with you or your team?
Absolutely. Simplest way, cxtsoftware.com. From there, not only can you learn about the platform, you can review some of our explainer videos, materials, and also book a demo right there. We'd be happy, regardless of whether you think it's the right fit or not. Booking a demo or talking to one of our teammates is a great way to really explore that and understand kind of where the use fits might make sense. We're more than happy to jump on the line and have that conversation, whether it fits or not. So we just love having the dialogue and just super excited to have those conversations as they come to bear.
That's awesome. You heard him. Go to cxtsoftware.com. I took a look around there, and there's definitely a lot of very cool, interesting things you can read about and see on there. So definitely go check it out. And thank you, Philip, for this chat and enlightening us about CXT software in your industry.
Thanks, Sydney. Appreciate it.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning into the SourceForge podcast. Make sure to subscribe and stay up to date for all our upcoming B2B podcasts that we have coming for you. All right, catch you guys in the next episode.